How's it rockin', Dween Nation? You're listening to the Dween Sports Podcast. We're about to get underway. But before you give us a listen, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, and share. We are posting weekly sports content, and we want to build up the brand that is Dween Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy.
Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Paez, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and we're here to discuss starts of the week and sits of the week. Fantasy football is exciting as heck, and we are here to help you set up your lineups for the week. Obviously, it's this week and next week for most people before the fantasy football playoffs start. So you got 2 games to make it or break it for your season, unless you're just sitting cozy in 9-2 or something, or not, what is it, 9-3, 10-2, or maybe you're already eliminated, but still make your lineup. I don't have to go into the PSA, but still make your lineup. But anyway, we're here to help you guys though set up your lineups. Maybe if you're one of those 2-10 teams, 3-9 teams, and you think you're out, play spoiler to somebody else. Just make your lineup, make a good team set up, and win a game. But anyway, before we dive into who you need to start and who you need to sit, how you doing, Genoa?
Yo, Dween Nation. Justin, this is going to be a crazy week. We're facing each other in one of our main leagues, and then I have another league in our elite league where I am fighting for my life in the playoffs. And so we need some wins out there. These are like the last 2 weeks there, Justin. This is where Dween Nation, we draft our teams. This is why we get excited in the July and all of August. It's all the hype. This is what it all comes down to there. This is where you have to make sure your team gets hot at the right point. And we are the best kind of people to go to. There's some great games this week, Justin. It all starts on Thursday, and I'm ready to get into these starts and sits, and interested to see on who you have on starting.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to start, and I'm going to start at the quarterback position per usual, and I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud. Obviously, the season has been a massive disappointment. They lose in a sad loss to the Tennessee Titans at home. Now they have to go on the road to play the Jaguars. But I think they're angry. They're playing against the worst ranked defense against quarterbacks. Another week of Nico and Tank. And Tank's best games in his career, at least in his first year, he had that star-studded breakout game against the Jaguars. So I think that this week they go into Jacksonville on a team that's, Jacksonville's on the edge of firing their head coach. And I don't think that all of their all is being put into this, as they currently would be projected with the number 1 overall pick, I believe. So I just think CJ is in for a great game. And I feel like he needs it. I feel like he's angry, he's pent up, and it just needs to go out. And I think this is the game you can do that. I feel like in a lot of leagues, he's probably been dropped, which is maybe rightfully so. But I think this is the week that you can throw him in your lineup.
Yeah, Justin, it's tough. It's tough to see my guy C.J. Stroud struggle as a Texans fan. It's been frustrating, the past couple weeks. Dating back to that Vikings loss week 3, and then that Packers loss, and then I don't even want to speak about that Sunday Night Football loss to the Lions, and then last week against the Titans. It's been some rough losses there, Justin. Hopefully, C.J. Stroud can get it going back again. And, he kind of, like you mentioned, he had his breakout game last season in Jacksonville. We were like 0-2. We were struggling. And that was kind of the game C.J. Stroud was able to become one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Hopefully he's able to return to that as a Texans fan. And even as an NFL fan, I think the league is better when, C.J.'s up there as a top quarterback. So hopefully he's back into it. For me, I'm going to go with Sam Darnold there. Now, Justin, he impressed me last week on the road in Chicago. Chicago does have a great passing defense, and still without Justin Jefferson even having a great game, Sam Darnold was still able to put 30 fantasy points on there, and so he has a ton of targets there. Jordan Addison's on fire. They finally got Hopkins back ready to go. He returned, I would say, a month ago, and he's back and better than ever. And Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the league, and I do think that he's going to have a great game this weekend as well. And this is going to be a shootout, because I think that we'll get into this later. I think that Kyler Murray is going to have a great game. That Arizona team tends to be very inconsistent after they lose a game like they did last week in Seattle, only scoring 6 points. I do think that the next week they always seem and tend to bounce back. A few weeks ago, Kyler was off a loss, and they went to Miami, had a great game. And so I do think that this is going to be kind of the reoccurring pattern that is the 2024 Arizona Cardinals, that they're going to be a shootout with Sam Darnold. And I do think that Sam Darnold is going to have an answer for everything the Cardinals have. And they are home. Sam Darnold is a phenomenal quarterback at home. Justin, the last time that they were home, it was about 3-4 weeks ago on Sunday Night Football. I think he had like 30 fantasy points there. Jefferson ate. Everybody pretty much ate there that night. So give me Sam Darnold as my start of the week.
Yeah, no, he after that really unfortunate game against the Jaguars where he threw 3 picks, they didn't score a touchdown. He's been very solid. Against Tennessee, it was a very solid outing. And then last week, when you thought at Chicago, this is not his spot to do well in, at Soldier Field and the outdoors. I don't know, but it worked out. He looked very good. And the interesting thing is he was able to use Addison, Hawkinson, Naylor got a touchdown. Aaron Jones had a good game. Now they're home. That, Justin Jefferson is better at home statistically. And so I think that is a fair play. And Kyler Murray, the Cardinals should score points. And so I think that it'll be a good back and forth. Darnold's a very solid play. My running back start of the week is Bucky Irving. He and Rachaad White have been balling together, but Bucky Irving led the backfield last week, had a bunch of catches, has looked super good. Really all season. He's been kind of the sensation to me all year. Was the RB, 4 on the week last week. Now he gets to play against the Carolina Panthers, who are dead last against running backs. And I think you could start Rachaad White, Bucky Irving. Maybe I can include that as both of these guys are good starts this week. I think that Tampa Bay will be in a lead, and it's going to be running the rock. And so I think Bucky Irving's a prime play.
Yeah, Justin, Carolina is one of the worst rushing defenses. And when you see your player lined up against your fantasy player lined up against Carolina, you're excited and you're starting them and you're firing up and you're ready to go. And I like Bucky Irving a lot. I think that he's going to be getting involved a lot more in this offense. I think that Rachaad White has become more one-dimensional in this Buccaneers offense as to where Bucky Irving can now do it all. And this is similar to a few years ago when they had Leonard Fournette and they were eyeing Rachaad White there, and Rachaad White kind of took off that back half of the season. And so that's what I'm looking at with Bucky Irving here with a different offensive coordinator there. Now that, Dave Canales, this could be a revenge game for him as well. This could be kind of a back and forth kind of game. And so I'm excited to see what Bucky Irving can do. He is definitely, Justin, he has the makings now of a league winner. These are, Justin, where league winners start getting hot. It's this random game against the Giants, right? And then they get another game against the Panthers. And then from there, Justin, they just kind of take off. And then, Dewey Nation, if you have a Bucky Irving on your team now, if you have Bucky on your team and you're in the playoffs, I mean, look out. This guy is a league winner, Justin. It always seems those, random kind of plays where they start to get hot. Like last year was Kyron Williams, who, he was injured for most part of the year. He gets back. He gets hot on gets a poorest matchup, and for there kind of takes off and wins championships. So definitely this is a guy that you can plug and play, start. Definitely like that for your start of the week. For me, Justin, I'm going to go with the guy who's been struggling the past few years, but this year he's gotten better. And I'm going to go with Najee Harris, right? And I looking at this matchup here, I know it's on the road. It's against Cincy. They are a tough rushing defense. It doesn't matter to me, Justin. I do think that last week, that loss to Cleveland in the snow, they had time to rest, and now they go to play on the road against another divisional opponent. I do think that this offense is going to need to rely on Najee to get things going there. Russell Wilson's been playing phenomenal there, but I do think that this Steelers team is going to need to run the ball. Another thing that I have that makes Najee such a great start, I think he's going to get a ton of catches there, a ton of dump-off passes. There could be a chance that Joe Burrow in this offense, they're upset as well. They go up big time, and I do think that Russell or Justin Fields is going to be, throwing a lot of dump-off passes to Najee. Justin, I'm predicting just 10 targets receiving to Najee. 10 targets, 6 catches alone just to Najee on the receiving side. I do think that he does get a rushing touchdown. I do think that he can total about 100 total yards from scrimmage. And I do think that this is kind of the time of the year where Najee can kind of take off here. And they're going to need him there if the Steelers are going to want to kind of aim for that division versus Baltimore. And so giving Najee Harris is my starting running back of the week.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to point out for Najee is the Steelers know how good the Bengals offense has been, how just electric they are, and you don't want the ball to be in their hands that often. And so I think they just are going to try to milk this game by running the football and being successful with it, because the Bengals defense is not great against running backs, wide receivers, all of the above. So I think that is a very solid play. And I think the catches is going to be a tough one to get behind just because Warren is there. But I fully expect Najee to get like 20 carries this week. I could see it happening. So I like that. For wide receiver, I got DeAndre Hopkins. He gets to go against the Raiders on Friday, Black Friday football. Obviously, last week he got in the end zone. He's been very solid since he's joined the Chiefs. But I think this game might be a little bit more competitive than we think. And I think that maybe, Mahomes is finally coming into his own just a little bit, putting up some good games. So I think that this could be an interesting spot for Hopkins, and he should be in your lineups.
Yeah, Justin, that's crazy. DeAndre Hopkins is now back on the coast with fantasy. Starting lineups. He had a pretty decent game there. He played his college ball there in that South Carolina area, Carolina. And so, I do think that, now he's becoming to his own. Also, Justin, we're not really sure if we can trust Xavier Worthy. I have him in one of my leagues. I always am tempted to put him in my daily fantasy lineups. But it's clear, it's really clear that I think that this Chiefs offense really, besides Travis Kelce, values DeAndre Hopkins being there. Obviously, they traded for him. So good. I really like that. So from one Arizona Cardinal receiver to a current Arizona Cardinal receiver, I'm going with Marvin Harrison Jr. And I really like Marvin this week. And this is going to be a shootout, as I mentioned earlier, talking about Sam Darnold. And the Vikings secondary has really not been good at all. Last week, Caleb Williams and DJ Moore were able to have a great game against his Vikings defense. And I do think that you can, see something similar with Kyler and Marvin. And there's always been this pattern this year with the rookie Marvin Harrison Jr. there, Justin. I mean, he has a good game, and then he has a few bad games, and he has a good game. And looking at what he did last week there, Justin, he only had 6 fantasy points there for 47 yards, excuse me. And then a few weeks ago, before their bye, he did score a touchdown. So the week before he scored his touchdown there, Justin, he only had 2 fantasy points. And then compared to the week before that, Justin, he had 25 fantasy points. And the 2 weeks previous to that, he was a combined 4 fantasy points for those 2 weeks that were bad. So this is a reoccurring thing there with Marvin Harrison Jr. And I do think that this week he does get back on track in Minnesota. And Justin, a lot of shootouts happen in that stadium there. A lot of fantasy points happen. I mean, Justin, I want to mention, I know you're an Eagles fan. One of the biggest shootouts in Super Bowl history happened in that stadium at M&T between your Eagles and the Patriots there, with Tom Brady scoring 500 yards, Nick Foles having the game of all games that all Philadelphia Eagles fans remember. And so that stadium is always going to be a fantasy shootout there, Justin. So start everybody you can. If you want to throw in Michael Wilson on a daily fantasy lineup, a parlay, go ahead and do it. There's McBride, there's Marvin Harrison. On the flip side, there's Jordan Addison. And Justin Jefferson. Start all your Vikings, start all your Cardinals. This is going to be a crazy shootout. And I want to get into more of that later in another episode. But definitely start Marvin for sure. And he's going to have a great game this week, no doubt.
Yeah, and if you look at last week, what the Vikings gave up to the Bears, I mean, DJ Moore was a top 3 wide receiver on the week, over 100 yards and a score. Keenan Allen had 80 yards and a touchdown. Odunze had 10 targets. So Caleb Williams was able to move the ball against this defense. And I think maybe this is kind of that, this point and on to the rest of the season should be the area where he has his breakout late part of the season to get us excited for next year in fantasy. Obviously, this year thus far has been somewhat of a disappointment, but I think this week he steps up and steps in, and he wants to, he's going to go head to head against Justin Jefferson, and obviously not on the same on the field at the same time, but stats against each other, offensive touchdowns, yards, catches. So I really like that there for Marvin Harrison. Moving to the sits of the week, the sad portion of our episode, or still helpful portion. I have DeAndre Swift, though, as my sit. I know he's got a revenge game against the Lions, but the Lions have been just very good against the run all season long, besides like one game to Ken Walker. And Swift, his snap percentage is going down. Roschon gets the goal line touches, so it has me just a little bit worried. I mean, if you look at it, his DeAndre Swift's snap percentage every week has gone down over the last 5 weeks from 73 to 67 to 62 to 57, now 55 as of last week. So I think they're starting to involve Roschon more and more. And this is kind of the portion of the season where Swift starts going down anyway. And I don't know. I don't have high hopes for him this week. First game, short week against his old team that knows him very well. And they just been so tight against the run. So I don't like Swift this week.
Yeah, Justin, the Lions are as solid as it comes to when rushing defense is there. And you know what, Justin, this is a short week for the Bears to kind of figure out what the game plan is. So I think that's what Dan Campbell and this Lions defense kind of have to their advantage. And there's a chance, Justin, that this Lions team routes this team up in the first half. You got to think about it in this way, Justin. The Lions have not won a Thanksgiving game in years, right, Justin? They have Aaron Glenn and this defense that is on fire right now. They're going to potentially go up 21-0 with Goff and Monroe being hot, and that causes for DeAndre Swift to not really get a lot of carries. Maybe he can get some catches, but you mentioned Roschon Johnson is getting more of the goal line touches now, and you got to think that now that Shane Waldron is no longer the offensive coordinator, that could be kind of the key difference as to maybe he was favoring Swift as where the new guys. Not really. He's kind of into Roschon Johnson there, and so definitely staying away from Swift. Because if the Lions go up pretty early in this game, Justin, we might not see Swift get 30 snaps. You know what I'm saying? So that's very concerning. For me, I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts there. He only had really one good game this year, and that's really it. I think that's kind of all it calls for. Coming off the bye for the Falcons, what are their plans with getting Swift involved? What is really their motives there? I mean, are they really, intending on adding him to the game plan? Because obviously, they're going to get, Drake London involved and Mooney there. And so Kirk Cousins has also been struggling there. His last outing in Denver a few weeks ago was not impressive at all. And this Chargers defense is pretty tough to opposing tight ends there. Obviously, Mark Andrews was able to score last night. However, I just do feel like this Chargers defense is very tough to kind of pass on there, Justin. Lamar Jackson is the MVP, so you kind of have to give him that pass. But other than that there, Justin, I mean, it's this offense isn't what Cincinnati had this defense. They're facing a weaker task. Obviously they had Cincinnati a few weeks ago. They had Baltimore, but this is more of an easier task with Kirk Cousins struggling. And I do think that it's going to tie into if Kyle Pitts is going to be able to get some touches or not.
Yeah, no, I think Pitts has been one of the – I mean, we were all excited for him. He had some duds, but then he had a few pretty solid weeks, but only 10 targets over his last 3 games. 75 yards total over the last 3 games. It's been very ugly. Hopefully, I mean, maybe coming off the bye, they might want to use him more, but I don't have high hopes for him. And, his stock just continues to plummet. So I agree. He's not a guy I want to go in and start. And he needs a touchdown to be relevant on the week. So I completely agree there. And then Dwayne Nation, you know how we end every starts of the week episode with our kickers of the week. For me, it's Josh Carty of the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, he missed a kick last week, I think. Yeah, he missed one from the 40-yard out, from 40 yards out. But he's got a matchup against New Orleans where I think they're just going to be in scoring position all the time. I think they're going to want to get their give back after losing not embarrassingly, but losing pretty badly to the Eagles on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, Justin, Josh Carty is a definitely great start for kicking. They are in the dome, and the Saints defense is potentially tough on stopping offenses, but I do think that with Puka and Cooper Nakua there, they're going to be able to get across the 50. And Josh Carty's going to have some tough ranges to kick from, and so definitely like his bounce back this week in New Orleans. For me, I'm going to go with a guy who is the all-time leader in career field goal percentage there at 89.7, and that is the Panthers kicker, Justin. Yes, the Panthers kicker and Eddie Pinheiro there. I do think that with this Buccaneers defense, they're able to move the ball on. Looking at what happened last week in New York, I think that the struggles with DeVito and stuff, they weren't able to really capitalize and get as many field goal opportunities as they can. They were down by a ton. But I do think that with this Carolina offense, they are able to move the ball here and there, surprisingly move the football enough on the Chiefs. So I am confident enough for Eddie Pinheiro to get across the 50, have a couple field goals there. The weather's not looking too bad there in Carolina. So definitely excited for Pinheiro as my starting kicker of the week.
Yeah, no, that was crazy to see that stat. I think when Tucker lost it, missing a couple kicks in that game, he had a really poor game, and then it was like Pinheiro is the new leader. And he's been very solid. He had a good week last week, so I think that's a fine play for sure. And both of these guys are probably available like everywhere. I didn't see their
Mhm.
exact percentage ownership, but they are probably available everywhere.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Dwayne Nation, these are starts of the week and sits of the week, and we got one more episode talking about bold predictions. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, and share to help doing sports keep growing. And Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dwayne Nation, this was our starts and sits of the week. Be sure to check us out. Let us know what you think about these starts of the week there as we are on the road to the fantasy playoffs there. And let us know if you have any other people that you're willing to start or sit, because, Justin and I are always here for some recommendations here. And, we like to fill up our daily fantasy leagues or maybe throw a little parlays in there. It is Thanksgiving week there, so we might be feeling lucky. Who knows there? But anyways, thank you, Dwayne Nation, for watching. We love you guys. And as always, peace.
Peace.